Thanks for joining us. And today we're going to talk about the guru in Kriya Yoga. So in Kriya Yoga and in many yogic paths, the idea of the guru is very important. Now, in some Kriya Yoga paths, such as Self-Realization Fellowship, the guru has been revered to be believed to be as one with God. The guru is God. So that's a common phrase in yogic lore, is the guru is God. Now, the very nature of this concept is very emotionally charged. So the reverence for the guru is seen as a primary aspect of that. And in the Kriya Yoga paths, Lahiri Mahashai and Babaji, they're considered the most important key figures in the Kriya Yoga pantheon, if you will. In a learning process, the teacher will provide some instruction. And it's absolutely essential that the teacher has attained proficiency in the practices that they teach. And certainly in the Kriya Yoga community, you will have different schools that are arguing with each other about which Kriya Yoga is authentic. And it really, at the end of the day for them, it's not about the practices themselves, but the alleged authenticity of that particular lineage. And where lineages can be important is that you're getting practices that work. So that's really the bottom line. But the other important thing is, do you have a teacher who understands how those practices work? And do they share this information with you as a student? And are you able to get the practices to work? So in some Kriya Yoga schools like Self-Realization Fellowship, they've talked about Kriya Yoga in terms of a divine gift, as if it was given by God, through the hands of God to Yogananda, which then dispensed it to the earth, right? Forgetting that there was a whole bunch of other people who also practiced Kriya Yoga prior to that. So in SRF, they talk about Kriya Yoga as burning up one's karma, and the idea of we all having these karmic seeds, what are called samskaras in Sanskrit. So basically, they're propensities to act in certain ways. And when you translated that into modern terms, really what it means is reactivity to things around you. So it was perhaps functional in its original form to help us deal with it, but as it becomes an inbred behavior, it becomes dysfunctional. So an example might be anger around a certain thing. If somebody has been traumatized or victimized in the past and they had a reaction to that, it carried around, and then when they get triggered, they have the same level of reaction to a situation that is not the same as the original. You can see that there's a propensity to react, right? That is not functional in the present terms, right? So samskaras are believed to be these karmic seed tendencies that are inside the chakras, inside the spinal centers, and predispose us to react in certain ways. And in Kriya Yoga, in SRF, they talk about Kriya as a way of burning up those karmic seeds with the blessing of Guru and the blessing of God. So when we look at it in this way, what we are doing is mythologizing an explanation about how Kriya works. And then we put the Guru on a pedestal and say, hey, they're divine and we cannot question what they say because it comes from God. Through them, they're the voice of God on earth and we must follow. And the problem with that is if the student hasn't been given an explanation that they can reconcile with the practices that they're doing, they're never able to connect them together. So you want to know why things are working and you want to know how to do it, right? That's in essence what it is. And in certain Kriya Yoga schools, they have this mythologizing around the guru and the guru's explanation, right? Either it's, the samskaras or it's, 24,000 year cycles of the earth and evolution and all these kind of things that you can't verify at all, right? And you're given a particular practice, which may or may not work, depending on which Kriya school you learned it from. And the student is sitting there going, okay, I'm going to continue to do this practice, which I'm not getting benefit from because of this reason, this mythologized reason. There's a total problem with that, and that's exactly what SRF does, right? Is because they've added so many modifications to Kriya from the original Kriya, so it's stripped away its effectiveness. and then to explain why people would continue to have the motivation to do it, they give you a mythologized explanation, right? You need to burn up your karmic seeds. So whether or not you have an internal experience, an experience of pratyahara or internalization in Kriya Yoga, it doesn't matter because you're burning up your karma with Kriya. So the other thing about the guru in Kriya Yoga and in other kinds of yogic schools is the idea that the guru could impart a teaching on you, right? The transmission they will often talk about. Did you get the transmission for this particular practice, right? So in Kriya Yoga, it could be conceived as the first initiation or the first chapter when you learn your Kriya Pranayama and other related techniques. So the idea that the guru's transmission means that the student received the teaching. That is not true. What is required is the teacher to be able to provide the practice, but the student needs to be in attunement with the teacher to get as much information and nuanced understanding, knowledge, and so on, and the inherent vibration of that practice. The student must be in attunement with the teacher to get that. So when you have those two things working together, a qualified, competent teacher that is sharing methodology that works with an explanation that is going to make sense, and the student can reconcile between the methodology, the practice that they have, and the explanation about how it works, and the student is in attunement with the teacher to be able to pick up the nuanced aspects of the teaching and internalize them and integrate them and apply them, then you are having a real transmission, right? And what happens then is that it's really, at that point, about building your skills, right, as the student. So the teacher has built their skills, and they're not going to be perfect because they have stuff that they're still working on, right? They're not divine, right? They're not divine gurus. What they are is a teacher who's imparting their knowledge, their understanding of that particular practice. They're sharing what they can, and the transmission that is coming from them, if the student can tune into that, to pick up the nuanced bits and to internalize it, right, integrate it, and start to use it, they're building skills, they're building their own capacity for that practice. And in Kriya Yoga, right, the most important thing at the very beginning, in the first chapter, in the first initiation, is getting into pratyahara, into an internalized state, right? And that's why at Modern Kriya, our website, modernkriya.com, we talk so much about that. That is the first place you need to go in meditation, is to getting into pratyahara, into internalization. And in Kriya Yoga, as we know, we're doing the Kriya Pranayama, right? And we also teach, on our website, the heart rate variability resonance breathing, right? Which is a distillation or application of Kriya Yoga, right? It basically more or less does the same thing for pratyahara, and then you can get into an internalized state in 5 minutes or less. If you learn the techniques and you're in attunement with the practices, right, and with the teacher, you're going to get results. It's inevitable. So from my perspective, people who put the guru on a pedestal and they're next to God and this kind of thing, what it means is you're saying that they're so holy, it's a do not disturb sign to question anything that they do, right? You're basically saying that they're next to God, so everything they say must be the truth. So the role of the teacher is to help the student learn as much as they're able to share what they can, right? And to admit when they don't know, and that is totally fine, right? So they share what they can and help the student to apply it to their unique circumstances. It's really a tailored approach, and that's really what Lahiri Baba was about, right? He had, students from all different backgrounds, right? Different religions and so on, and so he used the Kriya methodology, his understanding of it, his expertise in it, to distill things that would work for them, and he shared practices with them because he knew what the process was, right? So he knew what that was. And so he was able to say, okay, what kind of practices is going to help with that? So the Kriya Yoga that we have today, it's more statically taught, right? And that's usually what you see when an original teacher, years down the road, things get codified, right? And the students of the teacher from many generations ago will say, okay, this is what it is, right? But in the original time in which it was taught, when Lahiri Baba was teaching these practices, it was more fluid. He was more customized. So we need to keep those things in consideration. But the important thing is that the teacher understands how it works, and he's able to share with the student practices, explanations, etc., support the student through their process, right? So if you have any questions about this video, feel free to send me an email at info@modernkriya.com. Also check our website at modernkriya.com and our YouTube channel. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.